You made the mistake, and this is the quote.
No, I did not make a mistake.
All right, then
go ahead.
Keep quiet for a second.
No, it's my show, pal. If you don't like it, you can go.
You don't want me to read the quote because it's going to make you look foolish.
Read it.
Read it. Here's the quote.
Don't point. Be a man. Don't be a big mouth. Read it.
Two of the biggest egos in American media just sat down to discuss one of the most serious conflicts in a generation and somehow turned it into a playground argument about who had the right quote. Chris Cuomo versus Bill O'Reilly on the Iran war. And while these two grown men were busy hissing at each other like cats in a bag, real people were dying, the Strait of Hormuz was closed, and nobody on that screen had a clear answer for why this war started or how it ends. Cuomo at least tried to punch holes in O'Reilly's bluster. O'Reilly, being O'Reilly, just bulldozed through everything and called it robust debate. It was not robust debate. It was a hot air balloon with a microphone. I'm Henry. This is Henry's verdict. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay locked in because the full breakdown is at the end.
It's always been non-negotiable that they won't have nuclear capabilities. And so right now it's buried and we're watching it. We know exactly what they have, and they know that. And they will either give it to us, which the president has laid out. They'll give it to us voluntarily. We'll get it. We'll take it out. Or if we have to do something else ourselves, like we did in Midnight Hammer or something like that, we reserve that opportunity. But what's clear, what the new Iranian regime knows, is they'll never have a nuclear weapon.
I don't know where the confidence comes from. Let's bring in Bill O'Reilly. First, let me just ask you an optics thing. Also, let me give you a little bit of a shout out there. Bill's got a new podcast. It's called We'll Do It Live, which is a very clever play on just one of the many moments in his storied career. In terms of the dynamic here, what is your assessment of how the negotiations seem to be being approached by the various parties here? Is this America letting the regime lead?
There's an accommodation being made by President Trump because he does this in his negotiating history. He wants to get a deal. And he told me 4 weeks ago that this was his preference, not military action. And he thought he might be able to crack the first wave of the mullahs before they are dearly departed. But that didn't happen. Now, the mullahs basically are playing to their jihadist crew. So they're not going to admit any weakness. They're going to say, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. But the power is all in the hands of the United States and Israel at this point.
Hegseth saying we know exactly what they have. Israel doesn't say they know exactly what they have. Obviously, there was a miscalculation during the initial campaign last summer, and the assessments were grossly exaggerated, if not outright deceptive. But they haven't had any real monitoring in 5 years.
No, but the director, Rafael Grossi, on March 22nd of this year, made it very clear that he believes the enriched uranium in Iran stands at 60%. So why would he say that? He would say...
well, that's not exactly what he said. He said that they have 60...
I got the quote right here.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too.
Well, our battling quotes then.
Well, what'd you think? I'm just going to let you take it out of context, like you did on your show last night? Not here. Here, we're going to give you the context. The context is...
I didn't take it out of context on my show.
Yeah, you did.
No, you said, quote, we don't know what the nuclear capabilities were.
Yeah,
Rossi knows.
Right.
Rossi knows. So it's who's we?
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
Here's what he said. He said that they have 60% enriched uranium. Why? Because Iran says they were going to do it after what they said was Israel hitting one of their enrichment facilities. They were never able to go in and verify it. The weeks away idea, says Grossi, is a hypothetical that could be enriched further. However, he says, that is only one step in building a usable nuclear weapon that could take additional complex steps that could take months or even years.
All right, look.
That's the context.
You can believe what you want to believe, but
no,
I'm believing his
words. Just say I'm corrected. Let's move on. And
I'm not going to say that because it wouldn't be true. You made the mistake, and this is the quote.
I did not make a mistake.
All right, then
go ahead.
Keep quiet for a second.
No, it's my show, pal. If you don't like it, you can go.
You don't want me to read the quote because it's going to make you look foolish.
Read it.
Read it. Here's the quote.
Don't point. Be a man. Don't be a big mouth. Read it.
Margaret Brennan. This is a quote that Grossi gave her. One, most notably, the inventory of enriched uranium at 60%, which is very close to the degree you need to make a bomb. That's what the man said. Now, where did he get his information?
He said more than that. He said, well, first of all, that's a good question. I'll give you that one. That one's not some ham-fisted, opportunistic judgment.
He got it from Mossad and the American intel agencies.
No, that's not what he says. He says they still have their own surveillance mechanisms. It's just been broken down over time, and that they haven't had any real eyes on the situation for years, which is why no one really knows, Bill. I know they have things. We just don't know how much. And it doesn't really matter because they're saying they won't stop.
If you have any shred of logic left, if Iran didn't have uranium enriched to 60%, why wouldn't they let weapons inspectors in?
Oh, listen, they didn't let weapons inspectors in before they had 60% because they're a bunch of psycho zealots that want to destroy everyone they can.
Okay, so
they are liars and cheaters.
You're watching a country be dismantled, and you don't have a nuclear system. So why don't you just say, well, we'll let you in?
Who's saying they don't have a nuclear system? I'm saying
I'm posing a hypothetical question. It doesn't make any sense.
It's called a straw man argument. Go look up what a straw man argument is, Bill. This is where you make up an argument that's a proof of a proposition that has a flawed premise.
Why do that when your country is being destroyed?
Well, first of all, they don't care about the country. They care about their own existence, which it seems the administration is okay with.
Is in play. It's in play.
Is it? Trump has said he's not going to change the regime, and he's negotiating with them right now like they were an ally.
They had to kill 30,000 of their own people just recently.
Because they hate their own people. Because they're terrible people. They don't love their country. They don't love their people. It's all expendable.
People believe what they want to believe. If you don't believe
Bill,
that Iran doesn't have a nuclear capability.
No, I don't believe that.
Okay.
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And it's not what I said, Mr. Accuracy. What I said was, Mr. No Spin, was we don't know what they have. That's what I said. And you know who agrees with me? The head of the IAEA. You know who else? Israel. You know who else? America, except Pete Hegseth. Intelligence people who I speak to, the guys in Riyadh that are conducting the operations and surveillance, they don't know exactly what they have. They don't know how close they were to a weapon. They just say, we got to make sure they could never have one, which is fair.
You said the justification for this war is a question mark. Not to me.
Yes.
There's enough evidence that shows that the Iranians were working to build a nuclear weapon. And the evidence is down from Grossi to Mossad to the U.S. intel services. That's enough for me, Cuomo. It's not enough for you? Okay. What else you got?
Well, it's when you say it's enough, you're choosing to believe that there was an imminent threat that the president never specified. They're saying now they don't know where the stuff is. For all of the bombing that they've done, just had this guy enumerate them, over 10,000 hits. We still don't know where the nukes are, or how you get them, or how you go about getting them.
You don't know,
and that's all.
You don't know what the CIA knows. Look, I don't use Pete Hegseth on my program.
He's the Secretary of War.
I don't use him because what he says plays into a narrative that the administration wants the American public to believe. So why would I use somebody like that? I'm not disrespecting
You seem to be echoing the narrative.
I'm not echoing anything.
You seem to be echoing the narrative. You don't need him. You say the same thing he does.
I say there's enough evidence that they were close to enriching this bomb coming from other sources that I believe it. And I don't believe there's a fraud going on because Trump would be absolutely insane because it may break his legacy. And I said at the very beginning, it's the biggest gamble he's ever taken. If they didn't know anything, why would they do this?
I thought the tariffs were the biggest gamble he'd ever taken.
Well, this makes the tariffs.
I thought this was actually a nice pivot away.
This makes the tariffs look like a weekend in Mar-a-Lago. It doesn't make any sense.
If you're not a small business owner in America, because they're getting crushed by those tariffs.
Okay, fine. This is bigger. And what is interesting is the reportage on this is terrible because very few civilians, journalists, know. You don't know. But when you have experts like Grossi and other people coming out, and I use one of them, Lindsey Graham, okay? And he walked through, okay, you laughing at Lindsey Graham, but that's...
Yeah, in his face. In his face. You won't use Pete Hegseth, but you use Lindsey, bomb first, check second, Graham? That guy wants to bomb every country, every 5 minutes, Bill.
The information that he had, we verified.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How? Isn't it classified? Isn't he one of the Gang 8?
No, we verified it from the IAEA. And
but the IAEA hasn't checked, Bill. There's no, you couldn't have Grossi on your show and have him say, we think they were weeks away from a nuclear weapon. He wouldn't say that.
There's a thread, okay, there's a thread that goes through. Perhaps the best intel of this is Mossad. You certainly wouldn't quibble with that.
I think that they have excellent intelligence infrastructure. They're also not leaning on, but they're not leaning on the enrichment program the way America is. They just want to kill the regime because the regime wants to kill them.
This is a pretty explicit statement on March 22nd. That's it. It's explicit. It's CBS News. He went on. He said it. Okay?
Yeah,
and then,
I know. But he also said more than that.
All of the other things. This is the reason. This is the reason. Now, does NATO believe this? No. They don't want to believe it.
No. Hold on. Let's say it's true, Bill. Let's say it's true.
Okay.
What do you do with the fact that they say it's not in the 10 points? We're not here to discuss not enriching uranium. So Trump stops saying we're not going to enrich uranium because we are. If you don't want us to have a bomb, well, let's talk about it. But that's not even on the table. So how do you change that? Do you believe they have a plan to change that?
I don't understand the question. The president has been very explicit, and he said it 1,000 times, that Iran is not going to be able to get a nuclear weapon. Right. Okay, what's the question then?
How do you achieve that? You can't even open the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, they could open it, and this...
Really?
Yeah.
They're choosing not to?
Of course, they don't want to put infantry in or use naval vessels at this time. But that would take maybe 2 days to clear that strait with American military might. But it would be close quarter combat. And Americans won't, at this point, they will not accept that. And so that's why it hasn't been done. But Iran doesn't control anything. They lob some drones, and so the insurance companies won't insure the tankers.
Yeah, and that is giving them control of the flow.
Not giving them anything.
They're not controlling the strait.
It's an act of war. Not giving them anything. If the United States military wanted to go in and clear Hormuz, they could clear it very quickly. But that would require more casualties and close quarter combat. So the decision has been made not to do it yet. That's the reality.
All right. Well, let's see if they have their talks at the end of the week. See if this comes to anything. I'm sure. I would hope everybody hopes it comes to something. The last thing we want to see is more bloodshed in that region.
Not everybody hopes. You know that.
Anybody who listen, I gotta be honest. This doesn't work for me as a narrative. The idea that if you criticize what this president is doing, if you criticize the how, that means you hate the country and want them to lose, or you support the regime.
You can criticize Trump all day long. And I think when history unfolds...
What's happening here? What's happening here? I'm not talking about him personally. I'm not going after his language.
And
I'm looking at what's happening.
But I think when history unfolds, you're going to see that mistakes were made in the way this campaign was conducted. I think that'll happen.
Yeah, I agree.
But if you listen closely to many media and some Democrats like Murphy of Connecticut, they want Iran to win. They want them to win. Sorry, it's a reality.
Well, that's what you say. It's not necessarily what they think.
We already went through the quote thing. I can drag out 15 quotes on that. We're losing.
And I can call Chris Murphy and ask him, do you want Iran to win?
Of course he's not going to say yes.
You mean the regime? No. Oh, so he won't admit it, but you know it's true.
Look, this loon, Murphy, actually said that the U.S. military is losing. I mean, come on.
Well, I think the administration has put the U.S. military into a bad position.
Do you think the military is losing, Cuomo? Do you think he's losing? Okay.
No.
All right. Do you think it's responsible for a U.S. senator to say the U.S. military is losing? Do you think that's responsible?
In our political state of play, I can't believe it's not worse. I can't believe he didn't throw 5 F-bombs in there. These people, the state of play, which you only really want to pay attention to one half of, they lie. And they are cheapening anything close to true or real all the time for sport and clicks. So, of course, it's responsible. This is the game. This is how they talk to one another. Your boy Lindsey Graham can't say enough, crazy hyperbolic things. This is what they do, Bill. You know that.
I know that. But we verify what they say. And nobody would verify that the U.S. military is losing. So why would a sitting U.S. senator...
That is an opinion based on the fact that...
Why would they
say it? Here's why he'd say it. Because you went in there, said this was going to basically be a breeze. You didn't sell it before. You didn't go through the normal channels.
It had nothing to do with the military.
An alliance. and it has not been a breeze, and they are still alive and calling the shots. And that makes it look like we're not being as effective as we're supposed to.
That's not
he
what they're
exaggerates
saying.
it and says the military is losing. Same way you took one part of Grossi's quote and made it that they're weeks away from a nuclear weapon. He never said that, and
Yes,
he certainly
did.
didn't mean it.
He
No, he
did.
didn't.
He said,
didn't say they're weeks away
which
from a
is
nuclear
very close to the degree you need to make a bomb.
And
All
here's
right?
the part
That's
you don't
what
understand.
he said.
Here's the part you don't understand. Having enriched uranium that is bomb grade is different than having a bomb.
Okay, so Grossi
It is a very
doesn't
dangerous
understand
step.
it either. He's in charge.
No,
and
he understands.
Only you understand it. Grossi doesn't understand
listen.
it, and O'Reilly
No, Bill,
doesn't
you're better.
understand it.
Bill, you're
Okay.
better. You're better than that.
Well,
He
I'm
gets
much
it.
better than what we're hearing tonight.
Well, listen,
but that's okay.
listen.
This is robust
Anytime-
debate. This is what we should
I'm
be
happy
doing.
to have it. I'm happy to have it.
What we should be doing. Not saying the U.S.
happy to have
military
it.
is losing. You got to get Murphy
I'm not
on.
saying that.
He's the worst. He's the absolute worst.
I'm
Get him
trying.
on.
That's not my sell. That's not my pitch to him. Come on, you're the worst. But I'm trying. Bill, thank you very
All
much.
right.
Appreciate it. 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Let's talk about what was actually happening in that exchange, because beneath all the bickering and the quote wars and the be a man nonsense, there is a genuinely important conversation trying to break through, and O'Reilly kept suffocating it every time it came up for air. Start with the nuclear enrichment argument, because it is the factual core of everything, and Cuomo was actually right on the substance, while O'Reilly kept steamrolling past the detail that mattered most. The IAEA's Rafael Grossi confirmed Iran had 60% enriched uranium. That is real. That is documented. But the critical context that O'Reilly kept burying is that having 60% enriched uranium is not the same thing as having a nuclear weapon. Grossi himself said that getting from enriched uranium to a usable nuclear bomb involves additional complex steps that could take months or even years. O'Reilly took the first part of that assessment, dropped the second part, and presented it to his audience as though Iran was weeks away from dropping a bomb. That is not analysis. That is selective quotation in service of a predetermined conclusion. And when Cuomo tried to provide the full context, O'Reilly just talked louder. That is O'Reilly's entire debating strategy, and it has been for 30 years. The Lindsey Graham moment is the one that deserves its own spotlight because it tells you everything about O'Reilly's intellectual standards. He refused to use Pete Hegseth as a source because he said Hegseth just echoes the administration's narrative. Fair enough. But then, in the same breath, he cited Lindsey Graham as a credible source on Iranian nuclear capabilities. Lindsey Graham, the man who has called for bombing something in the Middle East approximately every 5 minutes for the past 20 years. The man who flew to Israel and personally coached Netanyahu on how to manipulate Trump into joining this war. O'Reilly rejected one administration mouthpiece and immediately picked up another one who is arguably more compromised and called it verification. Cuomo laughed at that, and he was right to laugh at it. The Mossad and CIA intelligence argument is where O'Reilly's entire framework falls apart, and the original creator made this point perfectly. O'Reilly keeps citing Mossad and CIA intelligence as though these organizations have a spotless track record of telling the truth about weapons of mass destruction in the Middle East. They do not. The CIA told Congress and the American public that Saddam Hussein had active weapons of mass destruction programs. He did not. That intelligence was fabricated or manipulated, and hundreds of thousands of people died because of the war it justified. Netanyahu himself went to the United Nations in 2012 with a cartoon bomb and told the world Iran was months away from a nuclear weapon. That was 13 years ago. The idea that we should just trust the Mossad and the CIA and the Trump administration on this specific claim about this specific country after that specific history is not a serious analytical position. It is willful amnesia dressed up as patriotism. The Strait of Hormuz exchange is where O'Reilly's pomposity reached its peak and reality intruded most forcefully. He sat there and said the US could clear the strait in 2 days if it wanted to. It is just being cautious for political reasons. What he glossed over so casually that it barely registered is the part where he admitted clearing it would require close-quarter combat and American casualties that the public will not accept. So the United States launched a war, the primary economic consequence of which is a closed strait that is strangling the global economy. And the solution to that consequence requires ground-level combat that the American public has no appetite for. And here is the detail that should be on every front page. The Strait was open before Trump started bombing. Iran did not close it to provoke a war. Iran closed it in response to the war that was already launched. O'Reilly presented the closed strait as evidence of Iranian aggression that justifies American action. The timeline says the exact opposite. The most important moment in the entire segment is the one the original creator correctly identified as the headline. When Cuomo pushed back on the idea that criticizing the war means wanting Iran to win, O'Reilly essentially confirmed that is exactly what he believes. He said Democrats like Chris Murphy want Iran to win. Full stop. No evidence. No quotes that actually say that. Just the assertion that if you criticize how this war has been conducted, you are on the enemy's side. That is straight out of the authoritarian playbook. The same playbook that Bush used after Iraq, that Nixon used during Vietnam, that every leader who has launched an unjustifiable war has used when the questions got too uncomfortable to answer honestly. Disagreeing with the strategy is not the same as wanting the enemy to win. Asking where the exit plan is does not make you a traitor. Pointing out that the justification keeps shifting does not mean you support the Iranian regime. But O'Reilly needs you to believe those things are the same, because if you accept that legitimate criticism is legitimate, then his entire framework for defending this war collapses immediately. Here is the bottom line. Bill O'Reilly is not doing analysis. He is doing what he has always done, performing confidence as a substitute for accuracy, citing selective evidence while ignoring inconvenient context, and wrapping the whole thing in a flag so that questioning any part of it feels like an attack on the country. Cuomo tried. He got the Grossi quote right. He correctly identified the strawman arguments. He pushed back on Lindsey Graham as a source. But he also got sucked into the bickering rhythm that O'Reilly always sets, and that rhythm benefits O'Reilly because it makes substance impossible and volume the only thing that matters. The original creator is right. This was not robust debate. Robust debate requires good faith. O'Reilly brought none. And while these two were arguing about percentages of enriched uranium, the Strait of Hormuz stayed closed. Oil prices kept climbing, and the people who need an honest accounting of why America is in this war and what the plan is to get out of it got 4.5 minutes of two men shouting at each other about quotes. That is the real indictment here, not of Cuomo, not even entirely of O'Reilly, of a media ecosystem that mistakes noise for substance and calls it journalism. Share this video, like it, subscribe to Henry's Verdict, and come back because we are going to keep cutting through the noise every single time. See you in the next one.